The business continuity policy is a document that's approved by top management and should define the extent and the scope of business continuity's efforts within that organization. Now, you should have an internal and a public portion to the business continuity plan. Internally, it's your message to the stakeholders about the efforts your company is going through to be able to restore services should something bad happen. Publicly, your message is for the external stakeholders, customers, partners, showing how the organization is meeting its obligations seriously or taking them seriously. Now, the BCP should be communicated to all of the responsible people that are going to be involved in this plan, and not something that you show them after the disaster occurs. It's, as I was saying, it's like being given a play for a sports game, football, basketball, something like that. And you know, the coach has the plan. And you know, and it's like, okay, I've got a plan. Now go play the game. And the people are like, well, what's the plan? What are we supposed to do? What's my job? Who do I watch? What do you know? We don't wait till after the game starts to show people the plan. It's something that they need to have prior to that occurrence. And let's hope that those occurrences don't happen. Part of the process of putting this plan together was the business impact analysis. In fact, it's probably the most crucial step in creating a proper business continuity strategy. We use the BIA to evaluate those critical processes, and we come up with times like, what's the acceptable downtime that we're allowed? What's the most important? What are our priorities? And, you know, of those priorities, what are the resources it needs, and do those resources have any interdependencies of their own? For a successful business impact analysis, the key business processes and resources have to be fully understood. And it goes beyond, right? If I just say that data of my customers and their accounts is most important, okay, great. But you know what? I'm thinking you need power, right, to turn the server on that's storing that information. You need to have a network that helps me make connectivity so I can get that information. And that network should be able to communicate with all the other branches or other branch offices that are out there. All of these things, right, are some of the resources that I need, and you know, some of the interdependencies. I probably need people to be able to put that together, to build it, to restore it, to bring it out from a backup copy. You know, all of these. You know, so it's nice and easy to just say, oh, you need to do a business impact analysis. It's another thing to actually go through the process and do one, because there are so many key elements, so many resources, so many interdependencies that we have to make sure we account for. And some of the interdependencies might not be as critical or crucial as others, and so that's what we look at in the plan. Now, there are two different approaches that we can take in conducting the business impact analysis. The first is a questionnaire approach, which is something we would circulate forms to the key users in IT and to other end users that would be affected by the IT. And basically what we do is we gather the information. Usually it's time related and analyzed, so we have an idea about, you know, what everybody thinks are the key business processes we need to look at. The other thing we could do is just interview groups of key users, right? Get them together in a room and say, okay, you know, we're coming up with a plan. What do you think makes this company run? Now, when you get this information, that needs to be tabulated, it needs to be analyzed, and it should be useful and used to provide the strategy for your business impact analysis. The BIA should determine a system's risk ranking and determine the maximum time that a particular system can be down. Now, I talked about the ranking, and I talked about that before. The classifications of those ranks are as follows. Things like critical. If I rank something as critical, that's a function that can't be performed unless it's replaced by identical capabilities. This is something I cannot replace by manual methods. If we have a classification as vital, those are functions that can be put into a manual moment, but only briefly, for a short amount of time. Those that are sensitive are functions that can be performed manually, that might have a tolerable cost and an extended time. Right? If I go back to logging orders on paper rather than into a computer. Non-sensitive classifications are those functions that can be interrupted for months without any or little cost to the company. Now, as we move into the development of that business continuity plan, The input that we get from the business impact analysis, the criticality analysis, and the recovery strategy are used to help us be able to create the detailed business continuity plan and the disaster recovery plan. The factors that should be considered while you're developing the plan, of course, are things like your pre-disaster readiness. Pre-disaster readiness means if your plan says, I need a hot site, then maybe you better go find one, right? You purchase the building, lease the building, set it up, be ready before the disaster. Unfortunately, we need to consider how bad the disaster. You might have to look at evacuation procedures. We should be doing these anyway, right? Most cities, most states require periodic fire drills. And, you know, in a real corporation, you should have a security and emergency preparation document anyway. Most of the places I go, I sometimes, depending on how much they take this as a serious issue, you will see a sign above somebody's cube that says they're a first responder. First responder means that if there's a medical emergency there in that part of the building, they're the person that is trained to be able to give first aid or first care until more skilled care, EMTs, doctors, can be made available. At the same time, if we have evacuation procedures, we have clearly aligned exit doors. People are actually, and I've been in many a company that when I walk in, and I'm not kidding about this, it doesn't happen all the time, but I come in and they tell me immediately, they say, look, this is where you're going to be working. This is your exit route. This is the muster area, right, where we all get together so that the responsible person that, is supposed to do that will do the head count, make sure we're all present and accounted for. Some places, it's just like, we'll see you when we're back, I guess. They have no procedures. You should have those. Procedures for when to declare things a disaster. You need to identify the responsibilities of the plan. I should say even better, that the plan says, okay, here's these responsibilities, what we need to get done. And, building evacuation, that's a responsibility. Data backup, that's kind of a pre-disaster readiness part, but that's a responsibility. And then we're going to identify those people who are in charge of those responsibilities for each part of the plan. We should have as well in there a step-by-step explanation about how to go through the recovery process. It is important that both management and users are involved in the success of the BCP. In fact, it should be mandatory. The management will identify the critical systems as well as the criticality and the resources that are needed. Recovery is the purpose of BCP. Therefore, the entire organization has to be considered. Now, remember that when you're looking at this, the following items should be included during the formulation of the plan. That is the staff that is involved, right? Those who are going to have the responsibilities. What facilities and equipment are needed? Are there any other resources required to resume operations? I gave the example that if I have a hot site 300 miles away, I might not get my people there. So one of the resources is human resources, having people be able to man and fill those backup facilities.